welcome to the podcast today. It's Wednesday, September 18th. At the end of today's chat, it's a spotted lanternfly on the door again. I'm at the end of today's little me talking at you, to you. The end of today will be the Grizzly story from a couple of weeks ago. So we'll dive into that. It won't be a lot because we have a guest coming in tomorrow who is really the person who is the catalyst for what we'll talk about at the end of this. That's a dog thing, and we'll kind of start with the dog thing, but first. Aaron Pierre. Remember when Yahya Abdul Mateen, Alex and I would joke, it's like, hey, leave some of these roles for other really attractive black actors. Like he was getting all of them, kind of like before Pedro Pascal was getting everything. Mateen was getting all of them. The next person I hope falls into that is Aaron Pierre, who is enchanting to look at for his physique, one, but I'll let you just look him up and maybe I saw him in a movie that our friend Belinda watched called Foe. I think Paul Mescal is in that. I didn't finish it, but Aaron Pierre just draws you in, and he's not been in a lot. I had come across something that spoke highly of this movie called Rebel Ridge. I read who the director was, didn't recognize the name, but then I dove a little bit deeper into him last night, and I was like, oh, now I know why. So Rebel Ridge was a fantastic movie. Don Johnson is in it. It starts out off in a all too familiar way. Couple of rural white cops pull over a black guy on a bike, but it goes in some very gripping directions. I would like to nominate Aaron Pierre to play John Stewart, the Green Lantern, in the James Gunn DC universe. And I hope he gets a lot of other roles. The best way to explain this was he was like John Wick without guns, and he didn't even, if he had guns, he wouldn't even have used them. Just like imagine John Wick with the threat of the weapons. It was pretty fantastic. I'm glad I watched that last night. Okay, the one dog thing. The Diddy thing is a thing again. For the obvious reason. I'm not going to retell the story of how I got him. He's been around for 12 years. It's not hyperbole. We're overstating it to say he saved my life in a lot of ways because he was 3 years prior to the right medications. Not retelling that story. He's been around every day. I kiss the ground. Cannot be more grateful than anything else in my life. I will say this repeatedly over and over again. I am grateful on a moment-by-moment basis that the boys are like 14 and 12. And with their energy levels and their actions, how they are physically, you'd never guess. Like, you'd think they were half their ages. So I'm eternally grateful for that and them aging so gracefully and athletically and energetically. With the Diddy thing coming back around, I'm obviously not going to change his name after 12 years. But what I might do is, if we're out somewhere and I have any doubt, if somebody comes up to him and they meet him, they go, what's his name? I'll say Diddy. And if I can get the right kind of vibe on the person where they won't immediately go, why? And more like, well, that's interesting. I'll share the name and tell the quick story. Otherwise, maybe I'll avoid telling. I'll avoid saying using his name at all. Andre is usually, Andre runs anyway. He's the easier one. He's the one that runs outside now. I'll put him on a leash. But if we're out somewhere, I'll just say his name is Did, D-I-D, which I like. We do, I guess, for kids, pets, significant, all kinds of people. Diddy, I shorten his name. Hey, Did, come over here. Did, let's go. Time to go to bed. Or the real pet name, Didster. I'll use that when I'm out in public too, or if I'm in a hurry and I got to call him, it won't be Diddy, so I don't get any weird looks. I'll just keep it short. Monclova, there's a developer in Monclova considering who wants to submit for, I think, zoning change, a pickleball dome, the paddle dome. It's somewhat similar to the one in Rossford, but I guess a lot smaller. If I read through the story quickly. If I caught where they want it to be, somewhere in the collection of 475, 24, and 20, somewhere where that all meets together, which is basically, where the construction is, I guess just a little south of Maumee. I have a question, and this is not me trying to be a dick or be provocative like I was today on my trunk or treat post, where I asked and put a picture up, can you tell me where a trunk or treat is? And I was simply mining for somebody to tell me, what's wrong with you? Ask, where isn't there a trunk or treat? But this is not me being that. This is me wondering, much like we've talked about words recently, how they go in and out. Don't try to incorporate slang into your vocabulary, because by the time you do sound comfortable using it and don't sound really old and uncool, we will have moved on to a new word. That word will be completely dated. There was a word I thought of today, and I was like, yeah, there's another one. We don't hear that one anymore. Was it you know what I don't hear a lot of anymore? And this is more a phrase or a sentiment, and maybe it's because we are more thoughtful with our words. I don't hear people calling other people, well, you're too sensitive. Now, it doesn't mean it's not true. Maybe somebody was ultra sensitive. We don't know why. Or maybe someone's comments towards them who said you're too sensitive maybe had a really bad misstatement. I don't hear that a lot anymore. Anyway, Monclova, pickleball, paddle dome. What happens if pickleball, and I know I saw it's up several 100% in the last couple of years across all ages and demographics. Young people, teenagers, 20-somethings, older people. Tom Brady and LeBron James are involved in it. What happens if it's just a fad or a trend and we're putting all these things up like Toledo Pickle, which I know is going to be more than pickleball, but that's the crux of it. It's going to be a place to eat, birthday parties, family entertainment center, on the water, on Summit, across the river from Glass City Metro Park. What happens if this is a fad? And I think this is an apt analogy. I ask what happens if it's just a fad or a trend and we put all these places up and all this investment goes into it and it winds up like axe throwing, which was, I will call, a fad and trend, 5-6 years or so ago. The Axe 419 here opened up in Rossford, Perrysburg, and we talked about it on the air 5-6 years ago. Everybody was throwing axes. Now, I know that there's always a niche population of archers, which I tried for a minute. And archery became a bit popular from Katniss Everdeen and the Hunger Games. For me, it was watching Arrow. But what happens if pickleball comes and goes like axe throwing did? Maybe axe throwing would have continued to blow up if not for COVID interrupting its trend to a more everyday, common, mainstream, we're going to do it forever kind of activity, like a tennis or a golf. Just a question. Yesterday, a lot of people in the area, not everybody, had their Verizon go out, and they had my sympathy. I think it was out for, in some cases, 12 hours. And I know it was, I think, the Erie, Temperance area and maybe parts of North and West Toledo. And I think it was the whole damn network, phone calls, text, internet, all of it. I want to put some perspective around the internet going out, but I will also then argue my own perspective. We are so goddamn reliant on the internet. We hate when the thing is out. I hate when I use the ESPN app through my PlayStation the other night to watch Monday Night Football, and it was all grainy, like I was watching standard definition television from 1991. I was laying down on the couch, and I didn't want to get up, but I knew that I should probably go restart the router. I didn't. Like, you can feel the level of irritation I had as I had settled in, and I'm like, God damn it. Like, I wanted to move the antenna or something like it was 30 years or so ago. It is so much a part of our lives. Good to see that Instagram is going to tweak some rules for teens. So I understand people, the aggravation and the irritation when it comes to being without the internet, especially for a long period of time like this Verizon outage was. But if my perspective is, okay, so you were out, let's just say it was out for the whole day. I've had before when this has happened, I've gotten some money back on my bill. They've thrown me like free movies or whatever from different cable companies. So what's 1/30th? What's 1/30th of, did I say 30th? Yeah, oh my God. What's 1/30th of your internet bill? It's not much. Your bill is $100, say $100. So what's that? $3? Here's your $3 rebate. We'll give you your $3 back. Just please stop fucking complaining. We have people working on it. I mean, it's something that's going to go. It's going to break. We apologize, and we try to work on these things when there's as little traffic as possible. Although you piss off gamers, you piss off 2 a.m. gamers who then complain about it on Reddit, but don't understand that you're playing a game, but there are fewer people than at any other time during the day on the internet. So we need to fix it at some point rather than shut it all down. So here's your $3 back. Stop complaining. However, within that day or within that period, there is more than $3 worth of grief that you're caused. Especially like the people who have the majority of my sympathy. Can I talk today? Just stop talking. Give up. Retire. The people who have the largest amount of my sympathy in these situations are the people who work at home. Maybe some people can go into the office. Maybe some people will head to a Panera or something like that. Maybe their phone service is different. They can work off their phone as a hotspot. There's workarounds. Maybe their boss is like, hey, you got some days. Take the time. Enjoy the day. It's a beautiful 83-degree late summer day. Go have it. But there's other people where the internet interruption like disrupts a big project or some other big work thing they were working on. And it's like, hey, we got to have, this is a $5,000 buy or something of that is way more than $3 back on your bill can do anything for. So those people have the largest amount of my sympathy. More money things. Starting to see more articles, more discussion about every 6 years. It was 18, now it's 24, obviously. At least here in Lucas County and all around the Ohio counties. I don't understand the levy aspect of it and the voting for it, but I get the math of it. This year in Lucas County Auditor Katie Moline, always been nice to me in my interactions. She helped me with my home was marked as a rental property, and I got a stern letter saying, what's going on? You're not paying X, Y, or Z. I called them. I got a person, and I said, this is not a rental property. Somebody didn't check a box. I have lived here. They helped me out. They sent me some money back. Very cool. To that, my water bill was higher than usual this past month. I called 8 a.m. on Monday morning, got a person who was not grouchy and quite helpful. I understand it's different when you call like Verizon back to the cable thing. I've had T-Mobile internet for 3 years now. It was available in my area. $50 for life, not a cent more. All the taxes are included in that. I don't need super duper high speed because I'm not uploading all those major work projects or gaming my brains out, but it does everything I need it to. And yeah, I got to kick it or restart it once a week or so. So property taxes. This discussion is coming. The number was they're going up. I don't know if it was property values or property taxes, but the number 30% was kicked around. I saw a Reddit post yesterday. Was it Reddit or was somewhere on the Nosy Asses of Toledo page saying my property value went up 120%. They had seen something saying property values anywhere up from 40 to 120%. I think I can confirm that, although my situation is a little different. I don't know how much I paid in taxes because I guess like everybody or most people, it was woven in to my mortgage, which, in fact, since I paid off my home, I got a chunk of escrow back. I think I was able to explain to my dad how that happened. Escrow and escrow and taxes and insurance goes into your mortgage. So if you pay it all off, the prorated version of that goes back to you. I think that's what happened why I got that money. I'll take it as found money. With the taxes, I think from what I've heard, our Toledo taxes, and maybe Lucas County, are higher than you might expect. And I think the reason for that is because we have had a declining population. So the fewer people there are to tax in a given area, then the more people who are remaining have to pick up the bill for. No pun intended. And I'm not an anti-tax person at all. Going back to the complaints about the traffic cameras. We live here. We got to pay for it. One way or another, it's either a levy or the traffic cams, whatever it might be. All we can ask for is to hope that the money collected is not disingenuous. It's authentic. It's a viable effort with the traffic cameras. It's for safety, not not strictly a money-making tool. In that case, if you don't want the tax, don't run the lights, don't speed, all that stuff, and spend that money collected wisely. Same thing with this property value tax increase. So I found a website. It's on my Instagram stories. If I found it, you can find it. My home was purchased for $77,500. I will retell this story. It's a condo, and it was an older gentleman passed away. The out-of-state sibling duo, they lived in Texas or something. They wanted to be rid of it. So I think the list was in the 80s. I offered 77.5 and they took it. I know Zillow is a very rough estimate, but it's probably not that far off. If I'm far off on that, you can tell me. When I was looking at Zillow in the course of the last couple of years, when home values were skyrocketing, I think the highest I saw it was like in the low 140s. And I think a couple of homes within a dog bark sound of where I live, like across the driveway, were 130 something, maybe 140. But when I looked at Zillow the other day, it said 151. Now, if my math is right, that is well over 100% increase in the potential value of my home. I say potential because of one thing. Again, I'm not anti-tax, but in this case, there is a loophole that homeowners don't get the benefit of, but we get taxed for. So, as many of us know, sure, you sold your home for $50,000 more than you. Sometime 22, 23, you sold your home for $50,000 more than you paid. That goes right in your pocket. And it comes right back out of your pocket wherever you go to live next. Whether it's rent, because a place that you're renting is now $1,500 as opposed to $1,100, or a place that you were able to get into, a mortgage, it's way more expensive. Just as you got more for your home, they're getting more for their home. So less is in your pocket than in other times. This is... I have my massive Transformers collection. It has a lot of sentimental and emotional value, but in reality, in practical purposes, its value is zero, other than those emotions and sentiments. If my home, burned down, the dog's not in it, they could give me $20,000 for my collection, but the sentiment of collecting all that and the joy of finding these things and ordering them and opening them, it's gone. It's gone forever. You could tell me that I could replace every one. Give me them the value that they're worth, and it wouldn't be the same. It's the same thing from there, and with houses, that's where I kind of stumbled onto the saying, again, another macroeconomic thought from a microeconomic mind. A thing is only worth something if you're willing to sell it. My Transformers, they only have emotional value and sentimental and memory value. There is no monetary value unless I attempt to sell them. And then, while I can dictate what the price is, the consumer, as we've discussed in a lot of different ways the last handful of months with supply and demand and high prices are the cure for high prices. The consumer can decide, no, I'm not spending $45 for that. I can get it cheaper elsewhere, or I'm just not going to spend that. And then it's up to me. I know I'm telling you like negotiation 101 here, obviously. Then it's up to me if I want to lower the price or not. When it comes to homes, again, something is only worth something if you're willing to sell it. Worth, economic, monetary value if you're willing to sell it. But in the case of property values, my property value could go up to $150,000. But I don't reap any benefit of that. I do suffer the tax pain from that because the taxes are no longer worth whatever the home was valued 6 years ago. It's valued at that. Now, unless there's something quirky on there, like it says, you have a pool, there's very little I or anyone can do to fight it. Now, there are discrepancies and mistakes from like old Google Earth photos or whatever. But if they say the home value is $145,000, even though that's double what I paid, I'm going to have a very hard time fighting it. And again, I'll pay more in taxes. If I did the math right on that site, could be $2,300, $2,500. I think my taxes are around $2,000 now. I don't know, but I have earmarked in my brain that I will get. I think they do it twice a year, beginning and middle. That's what I'm going to have to pay next year. And again, home is worth more, but that does nothing. That it's not worth a cent more in practical day-to-day value. But for property values, which I hope my taxes are spent well, it's worth a lot more. So there's the beginning of a resolution to the Lucas County Canine Care and Control situation from the dogs being mistreated, the video of the worker mistreating the dogs, all the drama between the volunteers and the employees. And we're going to have the girl who basically started this with a pages and pages long post. Haley she's scheduled to be on the podcast tomorrow, and I have a lot of things to ask her. But the director, Kelly Sears, who's been there, I think, 4 or 5 years, she's been fired by the Lucas County commissioners. And it was a lot of rhetoric and platitudes. We need to see change. We don't like what we've been seeing. We need better leadership, blah, 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 blah. And maybe that's true. It seems like a lot of good programs have been implemented while Kelly's been there under her watch. So that's the beginning. The problem is, as with any place where there is a union, unless proper discipline can be levied out against bad, lousy, terrible employees, not much is going to change. Whoever the next director, Michael Hart. What's Michael's current job? Michael is the interim dog warden, and I hate that name. It takes us back to really, really ugly times. And as a friend told me, Haley stumbled on things that are actually much better than they were just 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago at Lucas County Canine Care and Control. And I'll bring this up to her tomorrow. And I do want to ask her about the emotional scarring and my hope that she is addressing that. So the director's gone, but whoever is the next director may have the opposite of a heavy fist, an iron fist. Because of the union, they will not be able to carry out appropriate discipline. And when I'm sure in your workplace or wherever this would most affect you, when people aren't appropriately disciplined, the behavior doesn't really change. And that begins to dampen morale. And that's basically how we got, I think, the volunteer versus employee back and forth and drama with LC4. Who's ever up next, director position. By the way, the person that was punished for the video, I think her name is Megan Yunker, 10-day no pay suspension, 10 days. They deemed that the behavior was, they did not deem the behavior as criminal, but they did have a problem with it. And you know the deal, if you've ever been in any kind of corporation, they have to reevaluate training for volunteers and the employees, blah, 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 all the box checking bullshit. 10-day no pay suspension, I think is what it was. And that could even get contended by the union. And the union will try to throw it out, get that thrown out with a grievance, and then nothing happens to this person. To go back to the reason what Haley saw was happening and was so horrific is because there was no discipline. And when you are the director of an organization that is protected by a union, again, I am pro-employee, but I'm not a big union person. Their victories are often Pyrrhic and sacrificial because, sure, you made gains financially or other ways, but your coworkers are going to suffer for it. That's how companies will retaliate. The other way is unions cover the asses of the worst employees and people who just flat out don't do their job. And in many cases, the union leadership knows these people are lousy at their job, but they have to protect them to show strength as a union. It's a pretty crappy situation, but as Haley said in her post, it's the beginning of change. Forgive me if I'm pessimistic that there will be much more of it until things begin to affect the union or maybe the Lucas County commissioners who oversee LC4 and in some way, shape, or form, had some idea that some pretty ugly stuff was happening there and didn't do anything about it.